Hey everybody, today I've got an '07 Lexus ES350 with the Toyota 3.5 liter V6, the timing chain motor, and the water pump has gone out on this one. And this one here is not a fun job to do. So let's get into it. First thing you want to do is, I've already loosened this plastic panel, so let's get this plastic panel out of the way. And I'll try to get you a shot of where the water pump is. The water pump is right there. Those 4 bolts is the water pump pulley. And as you can see, you really can't, the alternator's right there. You can barely see the alternator. The thermostat housing's there. There's one of the coolant hoses to the radiator. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take out the torque strut mount up here. Then we're gonna get down and loosen those bolts up, put it up in the air, get the tire off, get that. All right, sorry about that. I was filming with my phone and I had a phone call. So what I was saying is we're gonna get the tire off, we're gonna take the shield off, we're gonna get in there and get the belt off. On this one here, I do believe we have to lift the engine up to get the water pump off, and we'll be doing the thermostat at the same time. This is a very tough job to do. So let me get to it and I'll come back once I get some of the stuff taken apart. All right, once you get the torque strut out, you have this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, and then this slides out of the way. Then you have to get this bracket out. This bracket's kind of a pain in the butt. You've got a bolt there, bolt there, bolt there, bolt there, and 2 bolts down here. These 2 bolts will not come out, so you have to pull this whole thing out as assembly. These bolts will come out. If you notice, they're all different sizes, so I marked them 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this also ties in with this piece over here. Then once you get that worked out of the way, you can, to get that out of the way actually, the ABS computer, you have to take it loose. There's a bolt down here and 2 bolts down here, and then you can lift this up on its bracket and get it out of the way to give it a little bit more. Also put a floor jack underneath the oil pan, just slightly, just to get the motor up to help get those bolts out of that thing. So now you can see a little bit better. Let me get a screwdriver here, and I want to show you, let's see. Now, it looked like there was quite a bit of, there we go. Can you see the play in the water pump? Great. Great. Well, there's my screwdriver. I'll get it later. There is play in the water pump that you couldn't see. Sometimes you can, when these are leaking, the water pump will sway back and forth. You can see them. So now we have to get this piece off, finish getting the bolts off there, get the belt off. I still haven't taken the tire off because I've been busy working on this stuff up here. Hose has to come off. This whole thermostat housing assembly needs to come out. And this is what makes this job so terrible, is this. Instead of the water pump just being this little tiny center section, it's this whole long monstrosity. Why they just didn't take and make the pump like right here and right here, like a BMW that has 4 bolts that hold it and it just pops out. No, you've got all this stuff you've got to take out. It's a pain in the butt. Here's a little something else I'll show you too. See how it says Asian there? And see how that's ground away? Most likely it probably said Toyota. So this is an original Toyota pump that they ground the Toyota name off. When I get the old pump out, we'll see if it says Toyota. All right, so let me get this thing up in the air and start taking some more stuff apart. All right, now I'm underneath it. So what I went ahead and did is, here's the one front motor mount. I went ahead and took the nut off the top here and the 2 nuts, one in the frame and this here, because when I jack up the engine and try to get it out, I'm gonna need that extra room. So, like I said, here's the belt, there's the water pump. Next thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and, this is the tensioner, I'm gonna loosen the tensioner, get the water pump out, then I'm gonna have to take the tensioner off, gonna have to take this idler off. The water pump goes behind the power steering pump there. I don't remember if I have to take the power steering pump off or not. If I do, I do. If I don't, maybe I can sneak it out. And then of course I'm draining the coolant right now. So let's get the belt off and get this pulley off and everything, and we'll probably let it back down, jack up the engine. I think you jack up the engine to get this water pump pulley out. That's probably, after I get this out and this out, that'll be the next thing. Might have to pull the harmonic balancer to get that pulley out. I can't remember, we'll see. Whatever makes it easier. Alrighty, I got the belt off. I got the tensioner pulley off there, And then on up, way up here, that one there, there's another tensioner pulley. I have that tensioner pulley off, and I took that tensioner pulley off. I got the bolts out of the water pump pulley, but it's not gonna come out. It's not gonna come out even when you take the crank pulley off, so I'm not gonna do anything. But what I went ahead and did is I started loosening all the water pump bolts, and now, as you see, I've got coolant dripping. So all that stuff is dripping to unload the coolant. So I got some of the water pump, most of the water pump bolts loose. Now I have to go back up top and start disassembling that thermostat housing thing. And like I said earlier, I took all the bolts out of this motor mount so I can jack the motor up to get this pulley out. I know that's why you have to jack the motor up. So let me let it down and start working up top, and we'll get some more video then. All right, I got the car back lowered, and I have the jack underneath the oil pan. As you can see right here, that's how much room I need there at the motor mount, which is inch and a half. And now I have taken this thermostat housing assembly off, which is a bolt here, and a stud here. Luckily the stud came out. Then it's got a hose connection here and an O-ring here. So now that I have that taken off, you can see the water pump. Here's the water pump pulley. It now will come off. So now I just have all, see, like that bolt I couldn't get to, and that bolt I couldn't get to. So now it's time to start taking the bolts out one by one. And then what I always do is I always take the new water pump and set it here, and I will take one bolt out and put it in the right place. Then once I get all the bolts out and the water pump out, I will transfer the bolts out of the new pump into the old pump, and then I'll get ready to put the new pump back on. So now we're down to the water pump, of getting the water pump off next. All right, last bolt right here needs to come out. We'll pull this one out, put it in here. Like I said, I have put all the bolts back exactly where they came from, so I know they're going to go exactly in the same bolt holes. So now out comes the old water pump. Now we'll set the old water pump here. Remember what I told you earlier about them grinding off the Toyota emblem? Let me get right there, Toyota. So basically, and then it says, see right there, A's, and so this is the water pump. They just ground the Toyota name off it. So this is an original equipment water pump for this car. And luckily, when you get this, the gasket comes off in one piece. It's rubberized. You don't have to do any cleaning. Usually, sometimes there still is some cleaning. So I'll get in there and start cleaning some of that stuff up, and we'll start with the reassembly. All right, I have moved all the bolts back into the original holes, so I know exactly where they go. The small 10mm head, 6mm bolts. This one here looks like it might go into a water jacket or not. I'm not sure. Most of the time, these bolts do not. So I'll put some anti-seize on all those. Now on all these longer ones, you can see they had some type of silicone on there. I usually take and clean this off, and I'll put Teflon tape on them. And here's another good thing about getting a good high quality pump is you get the same type of gasket. And then you get the other two O-rings that you need. This O-ring goes here, and now this O-ring here goes on this pipe here. So it's nice to get a high quality water pump that you don't have to worry about. Some of the cheaper water pumps have a crappy gasket. This has the good metal gasket. So I'll continue on. People like to watch the whole video of me putting it back together. So we're going to get in here with a rag and a razor blade and just scrape the surface, and get down here with a mirror and see how it looks. Make sure there's no other gasket material left on the engine. I do believe most of it came off with the other gasket, so I'm not really too worried about it, but I'm going to check it anyway So you have to check it. So just now when I was working on the motor, luckily I didn't have my hands in here, the motor popped up like another 2 or 3 inches. And the reason for that is because the motor mount on this stud right here was stuck. It finally let loose. That's why I loosened loosen it down here. So it finally loosened up. I'll go ahead and put some anti-seize on that. So if we have to do this again, hopefully no time soon, it'll come apart. But yeah, it kind of scared me. So I already got in here with the razor blade and started scraping all the surfaces. They all look good, so I'll start cleaning up the bolts and get ready for the water pump to go back in. All right, we got the new water pump in place. Teflon tape on the big bolts, anti-seize on the small bolts. The small bolts are torqued to 9 Newton meters, which are the 10 millimeter head. The 12 millimeter head ones are torqued to 21 Newton meters. They're all torqued properly. I was actually able to get my 1/4 inch torque wrench in there and I got all of them in and done. So now we're going to put the pulley back in. I think I can go ahead and put the water pump pulley back in and go ahead and put the bolts in that and get that out of the way. And then I still need to crack this apart. I need to take this bolt out here and this bolt out here to put the thermostat in. Okay, here's that pulley. This pulley should just fall back in place because I have the engine up so high. So got to get the bolt holes lined up. But we'll get the bolt holes in that, change the thermostat on that, put that piece back in next. Actually, since we have the engine up so high, we can probably start putting some of the other stuff back in there. And then when we lower it back down on the mount, put the belt in. So I'm going to continue this on. It's already, late in the evening, so I'm going to quit now and pick up where I left off tomorrow. So I'll continue filming tomorrow. All right, well, I wasn't going to film this, but I'll go ahead and film it. So here's the thermostat housing. So what I did is I went ahead and made a mark here so I know which way it goes back together. Took the 2 nuts off here because I know it probably doesn't go on that way, but it could. So I made a mark there so I know which way the housing goes on. I took the 2 nuts off. And then if you notice, that right there is the air bleed. So I put a mark where the air bleed goes. So when I put the new thermostat in, it'll be in the exact same position. I'll put the new thermostat lined up with the air bleed in the proper position. And now I know that that goes back together like so. With the 2 nuts. And these 2 nuts are probably supposed to be also torqued to like 9 Newton meters. I'll just go ahead and tighten it with this because this is not very strong. And got my finger caught in there. So let's take it back loose. Get my glove out of there. Go ahead and double check it. There's 9 Newton meters. There's 9 Newton meters. So now this piece is ready to be put back on the car. Well, with the engine sitting this high, I was able to get the pulley back on here, this idler pulley on, the upper idler pulley here, and this other idler pulley. So I've got all the idler pulleys on. Now I think probably since I still have it sitting here, I'll go ahead and reinstall this big bracketry there. Then I'll let the engine back down on its motor mount. I might have to have another person help me with that because they'll let the jack down slow while I guide the motor in. So I still might have to wait till tomorrow. I haven't left yet. So anyway, going along, it's coming together quite well. The clamp is back on here. I replaced the O-ring here. It's got a new O-ring here. Oh, that's what I forgot right there. There's a stud right there that the nut didn't come off. The stud pulled out. So I'm going to get that apart and get that nut. I'm going to get that nut on there tonight so I won't forget about it tomorrow. And then we'll go ahead and put this bracket on tomorrow. Alrighty, so I got this bracket back on. And it was a lot easier with the engine jacked up this high. And actually, I was able to get the serpentine belt back in with it jacked up this high. So next step is to go ahead and have somebody help me lower it back down on the mount, which I have to put a bunch of anti-seize on. And once we get that put back down, then I'll go ahead and put the upper torque strut back in and start filling it up with coolant. So this job is almost done. So I had somebody else lower the jack while I tried to get this mount on. As you can see, it's kind of bound up and still not in all the way down here. So I have to get a pry bar and pull the motor forward to try to get it back down on its stud. Once I get it back down its stud, then I can put all the nuts and bolts back on. All right, everybody. Basically, I got this one pretty much wrapped up. I have the torque strut mount back in, the belt's on. I still have to put the washer fluid bottle in here. Oh, here's something else that's really intelligent on these cars here. The radiator cap is underneath this plastic shield. So another plastic shield you have to take off to get to the radiator cap to fill it. There's a bleed. There's a cooling system bleed. Let me get my flashlight and I'll show you guys. Where is it? Oh, right there. There is a coolant system bleed right there that you want to unscrew when you're filling the coolant up to try to get all the air out. And then you just want to fill the cooling system up like normal, fill it up all the way until you get a fluid coming out of here. Close it off with the cap on, run it, try to get up to normal operating temperature, make sure it doesn't overheat, and you should be good on that. I don't think there's really surprises on bleeding the cooling. And of course, once again, my phone started ringing. That cut my video off. So anyway, there shouldn't be any surprises. The bleed's right there. So then down here, I got the motor mount all put back together, and I seized up the nut, the bolts down there. So I had to put the shield back on and the tire back on, and I had to put the rest of the shielding up here. So this job is basically done. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up on this video.